The Tennessee Titans do absolutely nothing at the NFL trade deadline, and that's perfectly fine because their work was already done. That and more on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. On today's show, we're going to break down the NFL trade deadline, the lack of moves that the Tennessee Titans made, why it's okay because they already had done their work, and I got a little bit of a Roland's rant for you guys on some of the fan reaction to DeAndre Hopkins' Monday Night Football performance. Before we dive in, I do want to thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first to listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there. Tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. On tomorrow's show, I'm going to have a crossover Thursday episode with Locked On Chargers, getting you guys ready for that game. Friday, I'll have my game preview episode. And then, of course, I'll be live here on the Locked On Titans podcast on Sunday after the game ends. We got a late afternoon game this week against the Chargers out in Los Angeles. So be excited to see all of the action take place out there. But with that being said, again, the Tennessee Titans made no moves on Tuesday. And look, I know that a lot of Tennessee Titans fans are going to be frustrated by the Titans not making any moves. Not only because the Titans didn't make moves, but just because, Titans fans want to see some action. You want to see your team involved. But the reality is, the Titans were smart to not make any moves if they didn't get the price that they wanted. And I'll explain why. So there are three primary players who the Tennessee Titans were, I'll say two primary players that the Tennessee Titans were truly interested in having trade conversations about. Number one, Arden. And we knew that. We heard the report from Dianna Russini over the weekend. But once Baron Browning got traded to the Arizona Cardinals for a sixth-round pick, it felt like that might be, the sign that the Arden trade wasn't going to happen. So the Broncos swoop in there. They get the sixth-round pick for Baron Browning. And if I'm the Titans with the way that Arden has been playing lately, I'm saying, okay, fine. I want a fifth-round pick for Arden. And then the other name that we heard that the Titans were interested in dealing was Sebastian Joseph Day. So two defensive linemen for the Tennessee Titans. Now, Dianna Russini also reported that a couple of teams called about Jeffrey Simmons, but they were firmly told no. And that's exactly what the Titans should have said about Jeffrey Simmons. That's a player that you build off of, a player that you build around. I have firmly said consistently, just like the Titans said, no, you do not trade Jeffrey Simmons. And doing it in season with the money that he's set to make, it makes it very, very difficult to happen. But you look at Sebastian Joseph Day and you look at Arden and people wonder, why weren't they traded? Why weren't they guys that you wanted to get rid of? And if you're the Titans, it's not as simple to me as they're going to be gone after the year, so get whatever you can, like it was with DeAndre Hopkins. It's not the same thing whatsoever because Arden is under contract for another year. So this isn't a one-year rental where a lot of these trades that happen, you have a player on the last year of their contract, and that's baked into the trade value. If you know that you're only going to have a player for one half of an NFL season, you're not going to give up the kind of draft compensation that you would if you're going to have a player for multiple years. That's why, although it was a dumb trade for the Dallas Cowboys, they traded a fourth-round pick for Jonathan Mingo. Insanity, but Jonathan Mingo does have 2 more years under contract. So you're not just trading for a rental player like a guy like DeAndre Hopkins was or Deontay Johnson was. It makes it different. The amount of team control that you have on a player does factor into the value that you're going to get for the trade. And a guy like Arden isn't just going to be a rental for 1 year. He's a guy who's under contract next year. And let me just say this. Arden has been playing great football for the Tennessee Titans. So if you're the Titans and you know that you have him under contract for cheap next year, you're thinking to yourself, why would I dump Arden Key for a 7th round pick like Preston Smith went for to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Why would I dump him for that sort of draft pick? And Zadarius Smith went for a 5th round pick, and Zadarius Smith is a better player than Arden Key. So odds are the Tennessee Titans were looking at a 7th round pick for Arden Key. And since you have him under contract for next year and his play under Denard Wilson has improved mightily in the 2nd month of the season, you're not just going to dump him for nothing because he's leaving after the year. No, you can keep Arden Key, and hopefully you add more to the edge rusher position, and he could be a valuable role player for you next year. Again, you have him under contract next year, and if you're not getting a good deal, then why would you make the trade just to make it? That doesn't make sense for a player that isn't an expiring contract. Now, Sebastian Joseph Day is an expiring contract, and I think that was probably the player that the Titans were trying hardest to move because he is on that expiring contract. But Sebastian Joseph Day has been an excellent role player for the Titans this year. That's the truth. Sebastian Joseph Day has been phenomenal. Like in his role, he's not going to be an all-pro level player or a Pro Bowl level player or anything like that. But he's been solid in his role. He's been fantastic value for what the Titans paid for him. So Sebastian Joseph Day is a guy, in my opinion, who you bring back next year. You want him back on your defensive line next year. T'Vondre Sweat has been banged up recently. He hasn't played his best football. He hasn't played as many snaps as he played early in the year because Sweat has been banged up. He's been injured. So that makes a guy like Sebastian Joseph Day even more important to the Titans on a week-to-week basis. So for me, I would have liked to see the Titans make a move here, but Arden Key and Sebastian Joseph Day both have a great chance, especially Arden Key, who's under contract next year. They have a great chance to be back on next year's team for the Titans, and that means that I'm not going to give them away for scraps. I'm going to make sure that I'm getting good value, and if I'm not getting good value, then I'm not making the deal, and it's that simple. So I'm okay with the Titans not making any moves because the Titans already made the moves that they had to make, and that's trading DeAndre Hopkins and trading Ernest Jones. We're going to remind ourselves of the moves that Rancor Thon made a couple of weeks ago to help deal with maybe some disappointment that the Titans didn't make any moves on the trade deadline day. Before we get into it, I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by the Ultimate Pro Football GM app. Our great partner is back, and they've added an even better and more amazing game mode to the app that I need to tell you about. The game has you step into the shoes of a football franchise GM and lead it to glory. But now it has a new head coach career mode. So on top of building your dynasty by drafting players, signing free agents, hiring your coaching staff, now you can also call offensive plays during the game as well. They have new tools for you to dig into, such as individual training camps, upgraded negotiation systems. It's a super fun, super realistic game, and now it's gotten even better. If you already have it installed, make sure to do an update. If you don't have it downloaded, make sure that you download it right now. It's a must-have for all football fans. The Ultimate Pro Football GM app is completely free. It has no ads. It's 100% playable offline. You can play as you go, when and where you want, and Locked On Titans fans get a special offer. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL in all caps inside the game store to receive a free boost to your franchise. Make sure you get it, as this perk will help jumpstart your play and give you an advantage when creating a dynasty. Download the game at ultimate-gm.com or just look it up in the App Store. It's the Ultimate Pro Football GM app. Start your dynasty today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest and most fun way to play daily fantasy sports. That's why they have over 10 million members and have awarded billions of dollars in winnings. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Again, this is how simple it is. You pick 2 to 6 players, and you say more or less. Jamar Chase, 79.5 receiving yards. Patrick Mahomes, 1.5 passing touchdowns. Travis Kelce, 59.5 receiving yards. Again, you just pick more or less. Make sure that you download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Fans, let's continue today's trade deadline recap edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. The Tennessee Titans made no moves on the day, but I think there's a very valid reason for it, and it's the players that were available the Titans probably have interest in having on the team next year when the team, in theory, should be better and more competitive. But I just want to remind everybody, the Tennessee Titans did make moves. It just wasn't on trade deadline day. They made two good moves 2 weeks ago when they traded DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs and when they traded Ernest Jones to the Seattle Seahawks. Those were the moves that the Tennessee Titans needed to make, and those were the players that they were going to get the best value of. So I want to remind you guys here, the Tennessee Titans traded DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs for a conditional 5th-round pick that can be a 4th-round pick if DeAndre Hopkins plays 60% of the snaps for Kansas City and if Kansas City goes to the Super Bowl. And as we stand 2 weeks later, those conditions have just as good of a chance, if not better, of being met than they did 2 weeks ago. Look, Kansas City needs to play DeAndre Hopkins. Look how well he played for them on Monday Night Football. Like, he scored 2 touchdowns. He made a ton of catches. The Kansas City Chiefs need to play DeAndre Hopkins. Some of you guys were reacting to the trade like, well, the Chiefs will just sit him on purpose to make sure that he doesn't get the 60. They'll just, not play. They can't afford to do that. They don't have the wide receiver talent on offense right now. They won that game in overtime against the 4-4, now 4-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kansas City has not played great football throughout most of the year. They are not in a position right now to be able to sit DeAndre Hopkins intentionally. Like, that's not going to happen. If DeAndre Hopkins doesn't get hurt, that's the only thing that could derail it, is if DeAndre Hopkins gets hurt. All right? So if DeAndre Hopkins doesn't get hurt, he is absolutely going to play 60% of the available snaps for Kansas City's offense. That's absolutely happening. So, again, I'm not worried about that condition outside of an injury. Other than that, Kansas City hasn't even been playing that great, and they're 8-0. Why would people be like, Kansas City is still the favorite to go to the Super Bowl? And again, they don't got to win. They just got to go. And the only teams that I think could really challenge Kansas City this year are the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm sorry, but I do not trust playoff Lamar Jackson. I don't. And I never will until he proves it. So my good friend Alex Clancy from Locked On Cardinals says it's Patrick Mahomes until it isn't. And Kansas City is undefeated. DeAndre Hopkins is their best wide receiver now. That trade looks even better right now for the Titans than it did when it happened, because the odds of it being a 4th-round pick are higher than they ever were before. So remember, Ran Carthon made the move with the most valuable player that the Titans had at their disposal. And that is a trade that you need to remember when you get frustrated the Titans didn't make any moves today because we're an ADHD society that just needs to have things right now where we're angry. And then also, the best move of them all was the Ernest Jones trade. Do people, remember, I know that it's hard for some people, and I've been saying this a lot lately, but some fans are just like, the team is 2-6, they suck, everything sucks, nothing's good. The Titans could land on the moon, and you would say, oh, who really cares? Ernest Jones was an incredible flip by Ran Carthon. An incredible flip. Trade for him for a 5th-round pick, and then you get in return when you trade him a 4th-round pick, a 6th-round pick, and Jerome Baker, a guy who, let me remind you, Jerome Baker was a guy who the Titans were interested in during free agency. And Jerome Baker is a guy who might be back on the Titans next year because he's already in the building, and that gives the Titans an advantage to bring him back in free agency, and he is more of a pass coverage linebacker. So when Jerome Baker is fully acclimated to the system, you're going to have Kenneth Murray as your hammerhead shark in the run game, Jack Gibbons as your secondary starting linebacker on early downs. And then you could bring in Jerome Baker on passing downs to be in kind of that Jayon Brown role, if you guys remember Jayon Brown from quite some time ago. So, like, to me, the Ernest Jones flip that Rand Carthon made was absolutely fantastic. And trading DeAndre Hopkins to potentially get a 4th-round pick was a great move as well. The Tennessee Titans now have a good amount of draft picks going into this year's draft, which is 100% what the Tennessee Titans need. Like, that's what this organization needs right now, is they need to stockpile picks to make sure that they have as many as they possibly can. Like, that is the move that the Tennessee Titans need to make right now, is to stockpile draft picks for players that most likely aren't going to be on the team next year. And again, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be 33 years old. He was not coming back to the Titans, and they need to get younger at wide receiver anyways. Okay? So, like, he wasn't going to come back. He was going to want an opportunity to compete for a Super Bowl. So, you have that. Ernest Jones was a guy who the Titans were only able to get. The Titans were only able to get Ernest Jones because he wanted a new contract from the Rams. So he definitely was going to want a new contract after the season from the Titans. And they should not have paid for him. So now the Tennessee Titans, instead of having a 1st, a 2nd, a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th, now the Titans have a 1st, a 2nd, a 4th from the Seattle Seahawks, their 5th, a conditional 5th from the Kansas City Chiefs that could turn into another 4th. So the Titans would have 3 4th-round picks. They're going to be able to use those to move into the top 100 again and replace the 3rd-round pick, a 6th-round pick, and then another 7th from the Green Bay Packers for the Malik Willis trade. Like, and it's not just the individual picks, because I know what everybody says. Oh, you know, what are you going to do with these picks? It's a late round pick. Who's that going to turn into? Is that, it's not just the picks itself. You can use those picks and bundle those picks together to move up in the draft and go get the players that you want. So, I mean, the season hasn't gone the way that we wanted. The trade deadline was boring, but the Titans made the right moves that they wanted to make, and they're in a good position right now to attack the NFL draft and replenish this roster, which is what they needed to do. But I got to have a Rollins rant here, man. A lot of people freaking out once again about the Titans when DeAndre Hopkins hit the Remember the Titans celebration. A lot of you guys freaked out for no reason, and DeAndre Hopkins clarified exactly what he was doing. So we'll go over that right now. Before we do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the second half of the season and all the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same exact page where you place your bets. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to join today or download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And I would say that first $5 bet could go on the Los Angeles Chargers money line this weekend. But that's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Titans fans, let's cap off today's trade deadline reaction edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about the moves the Tennessee Titans did not make and why they didn't make them. We talked about the moves the Titans did make, and everybody needs to remember those good moves that Rand Carthon made considering the situation. But now I just need to rant a little bit about the reaction. You know, it's very similar to my rant a couple of weeks ago on the reaction to Derrick Henry and why it's just Titans fans throwing a temper tantrum at the end of and it's not everybody. It's not all of you guys. Understand that, not everybody is reacting this way, but when so many people are, I just feel the need to remind people of reality in the middle of your fit, you know what I mean? So on Monday Night Football, DeAndre Hopkins catches his first touchdown pass as a Kansas City Chief, and he does the remember the Titans, oh yeah, that when you're twirling the arms and you're throwing them up. I mean, I probably look silly on camera right now, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Remember the Titans is the best sports movie ever made, so I'm sure that everyone's seen it. And if you're somebody listening to my show right now and you haven't seen Remember the Titans, stop everything that you are doing and go watch that movie. It is phenomenal. And with where we're at in our country right now, I feel like everybody needs to watch it again anyways. But with that being said, everyone was freaking out, not just Titans fans, everybody around the NFL. Oh, DeAndre Hopkins is trolling the Tennessee Titans. He's trolling the Titans, blah, 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 blah. Well, of course that is not the case. DeAndre Hopkins came out on Tuesday and said it was a shout out to Tennessee. If you know me, you know it's nothing but love for Nashville. Rand and his crew are like family. Without them, I wouldn't be here. DeAndre Hopkins is literally telling you, I wasn't trolling the Titans. I wasn't hating on the Titans. I was literally showing love to the Titans because they sent me to a place where I can compete in my old age. And they took care of me while I was there. Does everybody forget that DeAndre Hopkins said that living in Nashville was like his favorite place to play of his entire career? DeAndre Hopkins isn't mad at the Titans for trading him. He's appreciative of the Titans for trading him. And a lot of people said to me when DeAndre Hopkins was traded, oh, this is a bad mark, a black eye on the Tennessee Titans. Other veteran free agents will not want to come to Tennessee because they'll just trade you if it doesn't go well. No, it's the opposite. It's the opposite of that. It's, hey, if you come here and you sign as a free agent and things don't go well, we're going to send you somewhere where you have the chance to compete. That is like the DeAndre Hopkins experience was a positive for the Tennessee Titans. And I said this on Twitter. My reaction to DeAndre Hopkins' tweet was this: everyone has to quit crying, please. Hopkins was showing love. His time here was good. He broke the veteran wide receiver curse. Think Randy Moss, Andre Johnson, Julio Jones. He went for 1,000 yards with the Titans. He broke the veteran wide receiver curse. The Titans got good value in the trade. It was a win-win for everybody. And again, this last point is very appropriate for today and everything going on right now. There's a desperate need to be outraged by everything, and it's exhausting. Again, the point that I've been making for weeks now is because the Tennessee Titans are not having a good season, everyone wants to be outraged by everything. Derrick Henry was a free agent. He left. Tony Pollard is a better running back for where the Titans are at right now because he's better at creating after contact. Derrick Henry is top 3 in the NFL right now in yards before contact. At this stage in Derrick Henry's career, you have to give him that runway. We saw what it looked like last year when Derrick Henry got hit behind the line of scrimmage all the time. That's not where he's going to be at his best. Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, on the other hand, are running backs that can create when there's more traffic in the backfield. That is why they are a better fit for the Titans. And like DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry wanted a chance to go win a Super Bowl, and that wasn't happening this year in Tennessee, even if they had a good season. So it's just like, I know that everybody wants to be mad and everybody wants to, you're in a bad mood because the Titans aren't good, so everything sucks and blah, 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 blah. But like, remember some reality here of the situation. So, DeAndre Hopkins looks good on the Chiefs. He was always going to look good on the Chiefs. He's still good. We knew that. Nobody was saying, at least nobody you should listen to, was saying that DeAndre Hopkins wasn't good anymore. We knew that he was good. It's just the Titans aren't good, and he wasn't coming back next year. So you trade him to a place where you're going to get draft compensation back, and you give him a chance to compete, and DeAndre Hopkins is grateful to the Titans for that. So, just calm down. Everybody just calm down a little bit. I know that it's not fun for the Titans to not be good, but not everything is terrible. Not everything has to be outrage all the time. So just relax, take a deep breath. There are worse things to worry about than DeAndre Hopkins doing well for the Chiefs. And honestly, I hope DeAndre Hopkins continues to do awesome for the Chiefs and the Titans turn that 5th round pick into a 4th. So with that being said, though, that's going to do it for me today, folks. Make sure that you throw a thumbs up on the video, throw a tighten up down in the chat. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.